Maria lived in a small, simple house in a poor neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, and it didn't have much, but it was her home. She lived with her mother, who worked hard every day as a seamstress. Maria's mother would stay up late at night, sewing clothes to make money. They didn't have a lot, but they always had love. Maria's mother worked hard to make sure Maria had everything she needed, even though there was never much money to spare. Growing up, Maria learned how to make the most of what they had. She learned how to be strong, and she learned that love and family were the most important things in life. Maria was smart, and from a young age, her teachers could see her potential. Even though she didn't have the nicest clothes or the best shoes, Maria never let that hold her back. She worked hard in school, reading books, studying late at night, and always doing her best. But other kids at school weren't always kind. They laughed at Maria's old clothes and made fun of her for not having the things they had. They teased her about her accent and the food she brought to school. But Maria didn't let their teasing bother her. She kept her head high and focused on her studies. She knew that one day, things would be different for her. James, on the other hand, came from a very different world. He grew up in a big house with his mom and dad, who had plenty of money. James never had to worry about anything. His father worked in a big company, and his mother was well known in social circles. They had everything they needed and more. James was a confident, popular boy, and he believed that he was better than others because of his family's money. At school, James often picked on Maria. He teased her about her clothes, her lunch, and even her accent. He would laugh at her and call her names. It was easy for him because he didn't understand what it was like to struggle. He had everything he wanted and he took it for granted. He thought that because he had money, he was better than everyone else. When they both went to the same university, James continued to make things hard for Maria. He would make fun of her in front of others, saying rude things about her clothes, her food, and even the way she spoke. Sometimes he even made fun of the way she walked or the way she carried herself. Maria tried to ignore him, but it wasn't always easy. It hurt to be treated that way. But she kept going, focused on her studies, determined that education would be her way out. When it was time to graduate, things went as expected. James easily landed a great job because his father used his connections to get him the job. Maria, however, didn't have anyone to help her. She had to work hard, taking on several part-time jobs to make ends meet. She tutored other students, sold handmade crafts, and did whatever she could to pay for rent, food, and school supplies. Maria's dream was to start her own business, one that would help people like her, people who didn't have much but wanted to make their lives better. Maria worked hard, saving every penny she could. She dreamed of a company where people would be treated with respect and given opportunities. Her business started slowly, but over time it grew. She didn't mind that it was slow. She knew that good things take time. She made sure that her employees were happy, that they were treated fairly, and that they felt appreciated. Maria created a workplace where people wanted to come to work, a place where they could grow. Meanwhile, James was struggling. Even though he had a good job because of his family, he didn't fit in. He didn't have real skills. His job wasn't something he had earned on his own. It was because of his family's money. And it didn't make him happy. James didn't know what to do with his life. He tried job after job, but none of them seemed right. He wasn't good at them, and his co-workers didn't respect him. His arrogance and lack of true skills kept holding him back. One day, after he lost another job, James was feeling desperate. He didn't know where to turn. Then he saw a job opening at Maria's company. He couldn't believe it. He thought that Maria would never hire him. He had made her life difficult for so long. But now he had nowhere else to go. So he decided to apply, not knowing if she would even consider him. When he went to the interview, he was surprised to see Maria sitting at the head of the table. She was the CEO of the company now. She was in charge, and she had worked hard to get there. James didn't know what to say. He felt embarrassed. He remembered how he had made fun of her and treated her poorly. And now here she was, running her own successful business. Maria smiled at him. There was no anger or bitterness in her eyes. She looked at him calmly and said, "It's been a long time, James." James didn't know how to respond. He felt guilty for the way he had treated her. But Maria didn't seem upset. She said, "It's okay. We all have a past. I'm not here to judge you. I just want to know who you are now." James was shocked. He didn't expect her to be so kind after everything he had done. He was nervous, unsure of what to do. But he knew he had to try. So, he agreed to work at Maria's company, even though it meant starting at the bottom. It wasn't easy for him. He wasn't used to being in a position where he had to listen to others. He was used to being the one in charge. But slowly, as he worked, he began to see how Maria ran her business. Maria's company wasn't like the big, corporate places James had worked at before. She didn't treat people like tools or make them feel small. She listened to her employees, cared about them, and made sure they were happy. People at Maria's company didn't just work for money. They worked because they felt part of something important. They felt valued, and that made them want to do their best. As James worked harder and learned more, he started to change. He began to understand that being a good leader wasn't about being in charge or having power. It was about helping others, supporting them, and making sure they had what they needed to succeed. James started to apologize to the people he had hurt in the past. He realized that being kind was more important than being rich or famous. James moved up in the company over time. He found that he liked helping people, giving them chances they might not have had before. Maria and James worked together to create programs that helped young people get jobs, learn new skills, and have better opportunities. They built schools and offered scholarships to those who couldn't afford an education. Their company grew, but it wasn't just about money. It was about the difference they were making in people's lives. James learned that success wasn't about how much money you had or how many people admired you. True success was about lifting others up and helping them succeed. People who once thought he was arrogant and selfish now saw him as a better person. He wasn't the same man he had been before. He had changed, and he was proud of it. Over the years, Maria and James worked side by side. They built their business together, making the world a better place. They faced challenges, but they worked through them. They learned from each other, and their respect for one another grew stronger each day. They didn't need to get married to know that they were doing something important. They knew that together they could make a real difference. One evening, as they sat in Maria's office, looking out at the city they had helped change, James said, "Maria, I never thought I could be this person. I didn't think I could change, but I have. I owe it all to you." Maria smiled at him. "We've both changed, James. It's not about what you achieve. It's about how you help others along the way." James nodded. "I want to keep doing this. I want to help more people. I want to make a real difference." Maria smiled back. "We'll keep doing it. Together." As the sun set over the city, Maria and James knew they were just getting started. They had come a long way. From enemies to friends, from struggling to successful, from selfish to selfless. Together they would keep working to help others, to give people the chance they needed to succeed. Their journey was just beginning, and they were ready for whatever came next.